Birth, legends, and early life. Many great conquerors in the world have been surrounded, from birth, with miraculous tales, and the same is true of Genghis Khan, Genghis Khan. It was said among the Mongols that he was the son of the sun. His mother, however, out of modesty, did not dare claim that the sun itself had loved her. Instead, she traced this myth back to one of her distant ancestors, Buzinger, believed to be the primal forefather of all Mongol emperors. From this lineage came Filsuka, the father of Genghis Khan. According to Eastern chroniclers, at his birth in the year 1154, several extraordinary signs were observed, omens that were interpreted as proof that he would one day become a mighty ruler. His original name was Temujin, Temujin. The title Genghis Khan, Genghis Khan, was granted much later, as an honorific title meaning universal ruler. Young Temujin's troubles and rise to influence. In his youth, Temujin experienced many misfortunes. His father, one of the minor Mongol Tartar princes, was captured and carried away by the king of China, leaving Temujin vulnerable. Soon after his father's death, various small princes attacked him repeatedly. He was captured more than once, and each time escaped. Eventually, as persecution continued, he sought refuge with Unkin, the powerful king of the Karaite tribe, one of the strongest rulers of Central Asia at that time. Unkin not only received him kindly, but eventually gave him his daughter in marriage, even though another prince, Jermukha, had already asked for her hand. Jermukha developed a deep hatred for Temujin because of this. Plots against Temujin. Jermukha began working tirelessly to destroy Temujin. He accused him of limitless ambition and claimed Temujin aimed to seize the realm after Unkin's death, a realm that rightfully belonged to Sankum, Unkin's son. These accusations stirred suspicion in Sankum. He then worked to turn his father against Temujin, both through letters and in person. Eventually, the old king allowed himself to be persuaded to eliminate Temujin. But Temujin was warned in time by some loyal slaves. He prepared to defend his life and freedom as best he could. At the time, he was already in the field with a number of troops who admired him for his bravery. He fortified himself in a strategically strong position and launched a sudden attack on Unkin's army. His assault was so swift and forceful that he won a complete victory. The first major victory, 1193. In this battle, fought in 1193, Prince Sankum was struck in the face by an arrow and forced to flee. This victory laid the cornerstone of Temujin's future greatness. As the Arab poet Marakevsky wrote, "When divine providence throws you the rope of fortune, even your own enemies help lift you upward." If Temujin had never been persecuted, he might have lived quietly at the great Khan's court, where he had already served for 19 years, never dreaming of higher ambitions. Temujin returns home and builds power. After the battle, Temujin worked to fortify himself against future attacks. He soon received a large influx of warriors who had previously served under him in the Great Khan's army. With a considerable force behind him, he returned to his homeland. He was received with great joy. Immediately, he issued a public order forbidding all Mongol provinces from paying their usual tribute to the Great Khan. He encouraged them to throw off the yoke placed upon them. Knowing how powerful religion is in advancing great enterprises, he publicly declared that God himself supported his cause. He then formed alliances with several neighboring princes, though he refused to openly begin new hostilities until he had first sought a fair peace and a release from tribute from the Great Khan. But Sankum convinced the Great Khan to reject these proposals. Temujin's envoy returned empty-handed. War became inevitable. The Great Battle against the Khan, 1202. Both sides mustered huge armies. The Persian historian Mirkonde writes that the number of horses was so vast that their breath forced heaven to close its ears. In the year 1202, the swine year according to the Islamic calendar, a great battle was fought. Temujin won a decisive victory after a fierce struggle. The Great Khan and his son were forced to flee, but were soon slain. Temujin seized their entire dominion. After these great triumphs, Temujin returned to his homeland, where not only his own subjects but even foreign peoples came to him to submit themselves. Temujin is elected supreme ruler. Their gratitude went so far that they unanimously chose him to be ruler over all the tribes and hordes of the region. 7 Khans placed him on a throne and bowed before him 9 times. To unite Mongols and Tartars, Temujin proclaimed that he would henceforth take the title, Great Khan of the Mongols and Tartars. This is how he became Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan's laws, the Yasak. In the year 1205, the leopard year in Arabic reckoning, before beginning his great campaigns in China, Genghis Khan gathered all the estates of his newly unified people and issued new laws. These included belief in one god. Genghis Khan himself was a deist, neither Christian nor Muslim. Only a ruler elected by a great assembly of all Mongol Khans could become the supreme Khan. Strict laws against criminals, lazy men, false witnesses. Regulations for the army, marriage, forbidden foods, and more. These laws were respected for generations. Genghis Khan was considered not only a conqueror, but also a lawgiver in Tartary. The First Chinese Campaign. Genghis Khan launched an invasion into northern China. Discontented Chinese opened their gates to him, and his armies advanced rapidly. They defeated the Chinese forces led by the emperor himself, then laid siege to Peking. The Chinese defended with extraordinary courage. When they ran out of arrows and metal weapons, they melted gold and silver to cast new ones. But even this heroic resistance could not save the city. In 1213, the Kak year, Peking was taken by storm, and the Mongols massacred all in their path. The Emperor of China poisoned himself upon hearing the news. Within 2 years, the whole northern part of China was subdued in Genghis Khan's name. Genghis Khan, who possessed no less political skill, foresight, and bravery than other great rulers, had long hoped, though he never openly admitted it, that through diplomacy he might persuade the Sultan of Khwarezm to enter into an honest and lasting alliance. He had, as the text suggests, several motives for this ambition. First, he had already determined to establish a profitable trade between their two nations, especially in gold, silver, and silk. Second, he had long desired to civilize and refine the manners of the Polovtsian, Tartar, tribes who had previously been a rough and uncultivated people. Third, he had a great longing to understand more fully the condition of the southern regions of Asia, lands of which he already possessed exceptional knowledge. And so, it seemed that no king of the Asiatic world had ever shown greater concern for the prosperity of his subjects, their wealth, and their education than Genghis Khan did. All of this inclined him toward forming a lasting relationship with Sultan Mahomet. But when ambassadors from the Caliph of Babylon, Baghdad, arrived with the sole intention of preventing war, Genghis Khan suspected their deeper intentions. He therefore sought to strengthen, or at least maintain, his former alliance with the Sultan. At this moment, however, an unfortunate event occurred which turned the two rulers against one another. Merchants sent by Genghis Khan into the Sultan's dominions, supposedly both for trade and for renewing the treaty, were stopped at the frontier. The Sultan's governor, either through suspicion or malice, declared them spies. Motivated by envy and distrust, he exaggerated his accusations in written reports until the Sultan finally granted him full authority to deal with the merchants as he saw fit. The governor, now armed with full power, secretly ordered the execution of nearly all 450 merchants. Only one escaped, just enough to bring word of this atrocity to Genghis Khan. When the great Khan learned what had taken place, he immediately dispatched envoys to Sultan Mahomet's court, asking whether this massacre had been carried out with the Sultan's knowledge or consent. If not, he demanded that the governor be handed over for justice. But the ambassadors were treated harshly, and the Sultan sent them back without satisfaction. Thus began open war between these two mighty powers. The Arabian historian Albupharagius writes that Genghis Khan, upon hearing of the cruelty inflicted upon his envoys, wept bitterly and was unable to find rest until he could exact sufficient revenge. He devoted himself to fasting for several days, praying for guidance. For 3 days and nights, he took no food or drink. On the third night, he claimed to see a vision, interpreting it as a sign of divine favor for the war he was preparing. The Great War begins. The conflict erupted around the year 1217. Both sides prepared immense armies. Genghis Khan gathered forces from across his vast dominions, mustering close to 700,000 men, a number remarkable but not impossible considering the many lands under his rule. With this overwhelming army, he marched directly towards Sultan Mahomet, whose power extended across Turkestan, Transoxiana, Iran, and neighboring lands. The Sultan, though greatly alarmed, managed to gather around 400,000 troops, whom he considered strong enough to repel the Mongol invasion. But when reports came from his officers describing the astonishing numbers of Genghis Khan's forces, he replied coldly, "The Muslims are stronger in courage and in the science of war." This reveals a mixture of pride, faith, and desperation. The two armies finally met at Taraku, Taras. A great battle raged throughout the day. When night fell, both sides retreated to their camps, intending to resume the clash the next morning. But the Sultan discovered that 160,000 of his men had been killed, captured, or scattered. Declaring it unwise to fight another battle, he abandoned his fortified camp and withdrew with the remainder of his troops. Genghis Khan immediately seized the opportunity. Victorious at Taraku, he laid siege to the important city of Otrar, where the massacre of his merchants had first occurred. The city held about 50,000 defenders and resisted bravely for 5 long months. But in 1219 it too was taken by force and destroyed. The fall of Transoxiana. After the fall of Otrar, Genghis Khan conquered numerous other cities across Transoxiana. Sultan Mahomet retreated continually, losing province after province. Eventually overwhelmed by melancholy and despair, he died in 1220 during the Year of the Serpent, leaving his son Jalaluddin as successor. Meanwhile, the Mongols advanced toward the major city of Khwarezm. There resided the Sultan's mother, Turkenkhaten, a proud and heroic queen. Her reputation for firmness was so great that when conflicting orders arrived, one from her son, the other from her, people obeyed her command first. But despite her strength, the Mongols captured the city after a 7-month siege. The queen fell into the hands of Genghis Khan. Her fate was tragic. The Khan, intermittently subject to fits of rage, treated her cruelly, sometimes tossing her scraps of food as though she were a dog. He executed nearly all her grandchildren, sparing only the youngest, whom he allowed to live with her. Yet even he was eventually taken from her arms and put to death. She herself was later executed. The Great Conquests. Genghis Khan's victories were so numerous that the author declines to recount them all. What matters, he says, is moral instruction, not endless catalogues of triumphs. Still, he notes that Genghis Khan created in a few years a larger empire than even Alexander the Great. His dominion stretched 1,800 miles from east to west and more than 1,000 miles from south to north, encompassing the whole of Tartary up to Muscovy, as well as Turkestan, half of China, parts of India, Persia, Khorasan, Mazindran, and more. Near the end of his reign, he prepared an expedition to subdue the southern regions of China. But while encamped near the frontier, he fell ill. Though he tried to conceal his failing health, the disease grew steadily worse. Realizing his end was near, he ordered his sons to be summoned. The final lesson. When his sons had gathered, he delivered to them a sober and wise discourse, as the text calls it, urging them to remain united. According to tradition, he gave them a bundle of arrows and ordered them to break it. When they could not, he untied the bundle and broke each arrow individually, showing them how strength lay in unity and weakness in division. He then declared his eldest son, Oktai, his successor, and bestowed upon him the title of Great Khan. Soon afterward, in the 73rd year of his life, Anno Christi 1226, Genghis Khan died. He possessed all the qualities of a great conqueror, a hunger for glory, extraordinary diligence, energy, and patience in toil. He was both proud and endured hardship, had a quick understanding, and combined gentleness with iron resolution. Many accused him of hardness and cruelty, particularly toward enemies who resisted him. Some claimed he was an atheist, for he adhered to no particular sect. But others called him a naturalist, believing only in one God who created the world. His own religion later became known as Genghis Khan's faith, practiced by his descendants until the days of Tamerlane.